Hello, welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker, and there's no place like home, because we're here to review the top 16 deck lists for the Disney Lorcana Challenge in Bologna. This event took place on the 3rd and 4th of August. There were 1,886 players. I did have the pleasure of being able to cast this event. It's my third time casting for Disney Lorcana, and I'm eternally grateful. I'm going to talk about a bunch of stuff at the end. I'm going to talk about my experience over the weekend. I'm also going to be opening up some packs of Shimmering Skies, for it is release day. I've literally only about an hour ago got back from the Disney store in London, where I was invited by the Disney Lorcana Ravensburger UK team to go along and buy one of the new D23 gift sets, which I'll show off a little bit at the end. But we've got to look at deck lists. I have 13 of the 16 deck lists. Now, most of my information today comes from inkdex.com. However, I was missing 6 deck lists, and I put out a plea on Twitter, and courtesy of people commenting, a huge shout out to Lorcana Villain and Max, who helped me acquire a couple of the lists that I'm missing, and I was able to get another one through my contacts with the production team for the event. I am still missing 3, but we've got all of the top 8 and then 5 of the top 16. So let's jump straight in and take a look at the top 16 deck lists. Oh, and of course, a shout out to the channel sponsor, Cardmarket. If you're looking for Lorcana singles at competitive rates, including the new Shimmering Skies, then check out Cardmarket. But without any further ado, let's check out Illy, who was the first place finish for DLC Bologna. Had the pleasure of casting this final. They actually had a feature match for their, can't remember if it was top 16 or top 8. Either way, I was on a break at the time. It was Specci and Ross that casted that, but I heard all about it when I got back from break, and it was very interesting. And yeah, I was very glad to get to see them in the final go all the way with an incredibly unique deck. So we are Ruby Sapphire. There's a lot of the tools here that you would expect from this in combination. We've got our control-based cards like Be Prepared. We've got Maui, obviously, for some board control. We are seeing that big Sisu to help with Emerald Steel, helps with Steel Amber, can even help with Ruby Amethyst, and even in the mirror, board state dependent. There's a lot of characters, 2 strength or less, and of course just a huge body. 3 copies as well of the Uninkable Daring Visitor, the 1/1 Quest for 1 with Evasive, and on play pops a character with 1 or less strength, which is already a few characters, a few aggro characters, things like Flavisham, but we're also playing 4 copies of Ice Block, which obviously allows us to get even more characters into that range. Also playing Brawl to help with Diablos, but again, in combination with Ice Block, a lot of things suddenly come into range. Not playing any Mana Medusa, which is a rarity for Ruby Sapphire, but they've had to make some space for the extra spice that they're running. We've got a pretty full-on item package here. We're running 2 copies of Shield of Virtue, 1 cost Inkable. You can exert and pay 3 to ready a chosen character, keep characters safe, maybe reuse the Flavisham. Well, you would only be able to quest once per turn, but keep Flavisham safe, or reuse the Queen ability. We'll get to her in a moment. I'm building up to it. We're running 3 copies of Vitalisphere, 1 cost Inkable item, and you can pay 1 and banish the item. Chosen character gets Rush and a +2. Great for being able to help with boards. Obviously, we've got Maui, but if we really need to be able to quickly deal with a board state with some of our bigger bodies like Sisu and Tamatoa, this can really help. Also good for Castle. So yeah, really good. 4 Popsicle, obviously, for the draw. Running 1 Maui's Fish Hook and an additional item. If you've got Maui on board, then you can use the Shapeshift ability for free. But the Shapeshift ability is you choose a character to either get +3 strength or until the end of the turn, or evasive until the start of your next turn. And if you haven't got a Maui on board, you pay 2 for that. But yeah, that can be pretty useful. For 3 copies of Fishbone Quill for the ramp, 2 copies of Lucky Dime, obviously the big win condition a lot of the time in many Sapphire decks, whether you're with Steel or with Ruby. Just insane lore jumps we can make, mostly courtesy of Tamatoa in this deck. And we're also running 4 copies of Maurice's Workshop, 3 cost uninkable item. Whenever you play another item, you may pay 1 to draw a card. Now, I interviewed Illy, and they said to me there and then they think that this is the best draw engine in the game. And they were in top cut at this point. I think it was either top 8 or top 16s. They'd already done remarkably well. But yeah, it said to me, I think it's the best draw engine in the game. And I was pretty astounded by that. But let's go to our character package and we'll talk about another Sapphire card that they were very keen on. Running 4 copies of Scuttle. We've got a huge item package here. So it makes sense. And Scuttle's going to give us better odds to be able to hit those items. We're also running 2 copies of Teeth and Ambitions, which I think is super good for Diablos, and again, plenty of characters that fall into this 2 willpower or less range. And of course, being able to sing it with something like a Scuttle and put the damage on yourself to survive it is really, really good. And of course, just having more low-cost characters means that our bigger, more important bodies are a bit more defended against King, Undisputed, or Lady Tremaine. Running 3 copies of Gaston, which I think has got to be mostly here as a Flynn Rider answer. It can help with your math for things like Queen's Castles and just bigger bodies like Tamatoas and stuff. So there are if you're putting in a card that is kind of for one matchup, I at least want it to have uses in other matchups. Obviously being inkable helps, but I think mostly for the Flynn here. But yeah, I can see why Gaston put in some work. We've got 4 copies of Flavisham, obviously for the draw. Tamatoa we've already mentioned. Obviously this is going to be our win condition a lot of the time, and so many items here to be able to fish back out the discard and just to get our lore nice and high. Also 1 copy of Let It Go for just some more removal and we can sing it. But yeah, the big main character, in my opinion, we've got the Queen Diviner. 3-cost inkable, 3/3, quest for 1, and consult the spell book. Exert, look at the top 4 cards of your deck, find an item, put it into your hand. If it costs 3 costs or less, you can play it for free. So this is a card that has seen, I'm going to say, next to no play since its reveal, outside of maybe some fun decks or maybe a bit of play testing at the beginning of format. But in terms of top cut lists, this is not something you see. But look at this big old item package, and again, we're playing these for Maurice's Workshop, which as a turn 3 drop is super slow. But if you can play the Queen on 3 and then cheat in the Maurice's Workshop, that makes it feel a lot better, knowing that just every time we play an item, that if we've got at least 1 more ink, we can just draw a card. And over the games that I only casted the finals, but in those 2 games, this Maurice's Workshop put in so much work. In one game at least, he was I think he was topping. He was either topping or he had something completely dead in his hand and hardly any board state. But this Maurice's Workshop hit the board and it was just able to in a few turns, he had a full hand, a board, and this Maurice's Workshop was putting in so much of that work. And of course, really you want to cheat in the Maurice's Workshop. That's one of the highest values, but there's also Fishbone Quill here and Maui that are 3 costs, and just hitting any item off of Queen is just a +1 and advancing your win condition and giving you food for Flavisham. So yeah, if you'd have shown me this list before Bologna, I don't know how much of it I'd have believed in it, really. Is this a fluke? Not a fluke. Is it just that Illy is that good of a player and they're just super, super experienced with this deck? I definitely think this is a very high skill tier needed to pilot this correctly. But hey, I am convinced we will see some of this pop up for the next DLC. We've got Toronto coming up end of the month, 24th, 25th, which I will absolutely have my eyes on. And yeah, I dare say you're going to see a few people in the room that are going to try their luck with this, especially if, they put the time to play testing between now and then. But yeah, super innovative deck. Illy piloted it amazingly. It was such a fun final to watch. And yeah, this is... To be fair, the one thing I am going to say is I do think people were sleeping on this Sisu ice block. Obviously it gained popularity at the beginning of format. Again, credit to Sailor for being the one to sort of originate that. I always try and credit him on stream and give shout outs where I can and where I remember. But yeah, kind of originated that at the beginning, and it very quickly fell off and Ruby Sapphire started to look a lot different. And I've been thinking for a while that if I was ever to play Ruby Sapphire, I would want to run this Ice Block Sisu engine. It just seems super good, but would not have called Queen and Maurice's Workshop being in the first place list. So yeah, huge shout out to Illy. Will you be trying out this deck list? Let me know what you think of it, but yeah, huge congrats. Next up in top 8, also on Ruby Sapphire, we have Din, who has made Lorcana history by being the first ever person to qualify for the North American and the European Championships. What an absolute flex. They missed out on the Mickey at their last DLC, Fort Worth, I believe. I think they were top 16. This time, getting that Mickey, and yeah, again, that invitation to European Championships. I also got to interview Din on stream and meet them for the first time. Super nice guy, and the guy that's kind of popularizing the 8-cost uninkable dig a little deeper. Sing together 8, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, put 2 in your hand, the rest at the bottom. And again, just... Humble brag, I said that people were sleeping on this and that this seemed super good. I need to start proving some of these things I say, but that would mean me playing something that isn't Ruby Amethyst, and that doesn't happen a lot. But anyway, I'm glad that Din was able to show the power of this, dig a little deeper, and I think it's so important in a deck like this, that maybe not important, but just good in a deck like this, that like just is going to benefit from finding its key pieces. But yeah, in every other respect, it looks very much like the traditional Ruby Sapphire that we've seen most of the format, very unlike the first place build that we just looked at. The slightly less conventional things maybe being the 1 Judy Hops that you don't always see, 3 costing 2/3, quest for 2, and banishes an item. It's the exact same list that Din played in Fort Worth, and clearly they still stand by this Judy Hops. And I do think I don't have the one of the 3 lists I'm missing is a Ruby Sapphire list from top 16, and I don't have the full list, but I've got a memory in my mind about either hearing or reading or seeing somewhere that they were also on the 1 copy of Judy Hops. So maybe something to pay attention to there, Ruby Sapphire players, although we're very close to the end of this format. But not for Fort Worth, Toronto. So if you're still playing Toronto, then your mind is still going to be very much in this format. And also the 3 Queen of Hearts, which I asked him about on stream and asked how much they came up, and he said he wouldn't have made top cut without them. They were super important for him for aggros and for Flins and stuff. I was seeing the 1 copy of Hercules with 3 copies of Maui. Again, in the interview I did with him, he said that the Hercules hadn't performed very well over the course of the day. He wanted it to be just anything inkable, but at the same time, again, this was like a top 16 interview, I believe, and he said, but hey, I may get to a point where I don't regret running it if it comes in handy later. Obviously it's there mostly for Ruby Amethyst. When I first saw Din's list, I was like, I'd probably be on 3-2, but 3-1 I've come round to is probably the way I would go on a Ruby Sapphire list. Everything else pretty standard. 3 Fishbone Quill. We're seeing 1 copy of Great Stone Dragon to be a different way to ramp, obviously from the discard pile without depleting our hand. 3 Mali Dragons, 4 Tamatos, 4 Medusa, the 4B prep. We've got 2 Vitalisphere in here, 4 Develop Your Brain. Everything else, 4 How Far I'll Go. Everything else really, really standard. So another fantastic accomplishment. Another fantastic run for Din and a fantastic accomplishment. Those were the words that were intended to leave my mouth. So huge congratulations to them. I was kind of right, kind of wrong. There is another Ruby Sapphire list with Judy Hops, but it's not one of the ones I'm missing. We've got Fabian here in top 16. A bit of a balance between the other 2 lists we've looked at. Well, not hugely. We're seeing 1 copy of Ice Block. No Daring Visitor Sisu, but of course we've got Brawls and Madame Medusas, so that's still great. And it's another 1 cost item because we've got 3 Vitalisphere here along with the 4 Porpoisicle, but just higher odds to hit a 1 drop, and it's perfectly fine to put down after that, especially if you can combo with Medusa or Brawl or just have it be food for Flavisham. But yeah, again, seeing that 1 copy of Judy Hops. 3 Maui in here, no Hercules. I'd love to know how many Ruby Amethyst decks Fabian faced in their run. We are seeing that big Sisu, the full 4 count of Mali Dragon. Oh, we're seeing 3 Lucky Dime. Okay, actually, it wasn't me that interviewed Fabian, but someone else. It was either Specci or Ross that interviewed Fabian. Maybe I'm wrong. It might have been me. Anyway, I remember watching. I've been watching back the stream mostly for self-criticism and evaluation, which we'll talk about at the end. But yeah, I remember him saying in that interview that he was on a 3 Lucky Dime, and it's one of the biggest things that he criticizes. He thinks 2 is not enough. He thinks it's such an important piece, which I agree with, and like even getting multiple down can be really game-changing as well. But yeah, 3 Lucky Dime, more than you would see in most other decks. Just 1 copy of Ice Block, everything else pretty cookie cutter, so huge congratulations to Fabian on a top 16 finish. And there was 1 more Ruby Sapphire list in the top cut, courtesy of Anthony Medella in top 16. One of the lists I've not been able to find, but congratulations to them. Going back now to second place, we have Pierre, who came second with FluteSong, the first of 2 FluteSong lists that we'll be looking at in top 16. No Sleepy's Flute, instead playing 3 copies of the oh-so-growing in popularity Golden Harp, 1 cost inkable, 1/4, quest for 2. At the end of your turn, if you didn't play a song this turn, banish this character. Definitely a card I hugely underrated when I first saw it, and has I've not seen a lot of play throughout most of the format, but yeah, like the last couple of weeks, maybe month, she has been popping up in top cut lists. Again, you can never play it on turn 1, or shouldn't, because she'll just be banished. But in the later stages of the game, when you're just playing a whole new world, with singing a whole new world, refreshing your hand, and then you've got at least say 5, 6, 7 ink to play with. Then being able to extend multiple characters, and these harps providing 2 lore each does sound really good. It's a lot faster than Sleepy's Flute, which some people may be surprised not to see, and I suppose I'm a little surprised not to see it, but at the same time I've listened to a lot of top players talking about FluteSong recently, and they all seem to be in agreement that Flute is at least not as consistently good as Harp. I also interviewed Jake Quincy on day 1. They didn't make top cart, unfortunately, but someone that I know from years and years back from my Yu-Gi-Oh days, which is going back 15 plus years, was always a very talented TCG player, and I interviewed them after their game on stream where they were also playing FluteSong with Golden Harps, and they were very much cheerleading the Golden Harp over the Sleepy's Flute, and yeah, seemed to put in a lot of work for Pierre as well. Also running 2 copies of Perdita, 6 cost uninkable, 1/6 quest for 2. When you play it and on quest, you can play a character with 2 or less for free, so that's getting back our Golden Harps that we just talked about. So again, as long as you've played a song in that turn, super good. Of course, we've got a 4/4 Robin Hood line. We're running the 4 Ballroom Sensation Cinderella to sing songs and again be a target for Perdita. Running 4 copies of Ursula Vanessa that can be a target for Perdita, and just a great character with Singer 4 to threaten a lot of our songs. And we're running 3 copies of Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain, a super aggressive card. 2 cost inkable, 2/3 quest for 1. If you've got 2 other characters on board, he quests for 3. So this is very much an aggro style list of FluteSong. They just want to play out as many characters as they can, get an early shift line through Robin Hood or Ariel, or just use Ariel, sing a whole new world, and just try and outvalue in the long run. We've got bare necessities to snipe away those grab swords and be prepared. 3 copies of Mr. Smee for the stats. 4 copies of Lawrence, who's another character that's growing in popularity. 0/4 but gets +4 when he's got no damage. Quest for 2 and a 3-drop. Super aggressive card. Quite often can make favourable trades and good against things like Flynn, and good for castles. 4 Rapunzel for draw. Also running 2 copies of Stout-Hearted Cinderella to shift onto our 1-drop. And I think I watched 2 games of Pierre. One of them might have been day 1, actually, but definitely watched at least 2 games, and I saw the Cinderella put in work for them a lot. Just the extra reach it gives you, such an aggressive quester. And then, yeah, a pretty traditional song count, 3 Zeus, only 1 go big, grab your swords, I think is fine. So, yeah, super aggressive looking list, and a really good player. So, huge congratulations to Pierre. Next up in top 8, our other FluteSong list, we have Ricardo, who is playing that Sleepy's Flute, so maybe falling off for some players, but still putting a lot of work for Ricardo, getting them all the way to top 8. Fairly traditional song package here, 4 Storm, 4 Rage, 4 Whole New World, and then we're on 2 Zeus and 2 Grab Your Swords. Of course, Ariel to help us find those songs. We are running a 4/3 line of Robin Hood, which I think is fine because we're also running a 4/4 Queen line, which is another shift option for us to sing our songs and help us control the board with the +4, -4 effect. Great for Queen's Castle, things like that. We're also running 3 copies of Gaston Baritone Bully. 3 cost inkable, 3/3 quest for 1, and sing a 5. So I love this. We're not playing Ursula Vanessa. I really like this Gaston being another character that consistently sings Whole New World or Grab Your Swords and is not removed by Brawl. And again, these FluteSong lists just thrive when they have multiple singers down on the board. Like if you can have an Ariel, a Queen, and a Gaston, that's so much for your opponent to remove to take away your ability to like have these high value Whole New World turns. So yeah, huge fan of Gaston, and obviously biasly it's just great to see him making top 8 in this FluteSong list. So yeah, huge congratulations to Ricardo. Going back to 4th place, we have the first of 4 Sapphire Steel lists. A really good run for Sapphire Steel, taking advantage of a pretty huge field of Bucky. That was the medical that, you know, I think Ruby Amethyst was the main medical prediction, but you had to know there was going to be an awful lot of Emerald Steel Bucky for the Swan Song. So yeah, Sapphire Steel absolutely taking advantage of that. And yeah, in top 4, we have Victor, with a list that looks very very teched for the mirror, running 1 copy of that Beast Hard-Headed and 1 copy of Aerial Treasure Collector, who quests for 5 if you've got more items than your opponent. Also running 3 copies of Argus, which is here 90% to be an answer for Flynn, but again, similar to how what I was talking about earlier with Gaston, just full strength is really good to help you take out bigger bodies like Tamatoas, help with things like Queen's Castle. So yeah, just this 4-1 stat line is really good. We've of course got Smee for the stats, running 4 copies of Detective Mickey for additional way of ramping, 2 copies of Belle to be another really aggressive quester, especially in conjunction with Lucky Dime, 4 copies of that Cogsworth, which tends to be the MVP of these Sapphire Steel matchups most of the time when I'm casting them. So big up Cogsworth, 4 copies of Tinkerbell for some great ball control, 3 copies of that Tamatoa to be our other. Again, a lot of the time this is going to be our win condition. There are multiple really, Belle, Aerial, even just like questing with Cogsworth, Beast and Tinkerbell can get you there, but obviously that's one of the main appeals of the deck, this Tamatoa, the reach it can get through having multiple items on the board and combined with Lucky Dime. So looks good, running 4 copies of a Boom, so always hopefully going to be able to answer those Flynn Riders, those Diablos, those Robin Hoods, Queens, anything that the opponent is looking to shift. So I like that. 2 copies of Rise of the Titans were nice, going to be really helpful in the Ruby Amethyst matchup for those Queen's Castles, and of course again just removing items, good for the mirror to take out the opposing Lucky Dimes and things like that. We've got 2 copies of Let It Go. Sapphire Steel can really struggle to deal with bigger bodies, Cinderella Stout-Hearted, opposing Tamatoas, things like that. So this Let It Go, I'm sure, put in a lot of work. 4 Whole New World, 3 Grab Swords, 4/4 Porpsicle and Fortisphere, 4 Fishbone Quill, 2 Lucky Dime. Yeah, looking really, really good, and huge congratulations to Victor. Next up in top 8, we've got Yano, also pretty tech for the mirror with 2 copies of Beast Hard-Headed and 1 copy of Aerial Treasure Collector. Also probably hoping to have a good Ruby Amethyst matchup with the addition of those 2 Captain Hook, which is going to help you for taking out Queen's Castles and just allow you to extend your board a little bit more when you've put down these big characters like Cogsworth, Aerial, Tamatoa, Tinkerbell, because I think if the Ruby Amethyst list is on a high enough count of Be King Undisputed / Tremaine, then I think the Ruby Amethyst player is a little bit more favoured, but if you've got a higher count of these like low cost characters, then I think that can definitely put it in the Sapphire Steel player's favour. So I'd love to see that. These Argus, again, another low cost character and good for the Flynn, have all the reasons we just talked about. Or the character count looks pretty much the same, 2 Let It Go, 3 copies of Baboom, the item package looks exactly the same. So yeah, pretty cookie cutter stuff here. Big congratulations to Yano. Next up in top 16, we've got Luca. No Beast Hard-Headed, but we are seeing that Aerial Treasure Collector. 1 copy of Along Came Zeus in this build, along with the 2 Let It Go, 2 Rise of the Titans, and 3 copies of Baboom. So these players really prioritising these Babooms a lot of the time, and you're often seeing at least 1 copy of Rise of the Titans, sometimes 2. We're seeing those 3 copies of Argus for all the reasons we've already described. 2 copies of Beast Tragic Hero in this list, which again, if you're not against Ruby Amethyst, is great, and if you are, it's inkable, and maybe even if on the play you can get at least 1 turn out of it, or at least just maybe wait until they've gone through a couple of their Medusas, because a lot of Ruby Amethyst players are moving to 2, so I think Beast Tragic Hero is primed to take advantage of that, but yeah, other than that, looking pretty standard, so huge congratulations to Luca. And our final Sapphire Steel list in top 16, we have Moyen of Podcana. I've met Moyen 3 times now in Lille, Bochum, and Italy. I'd like to call them a friend at this point. Super nice guy, great player. I'm a big fan of the Podcana podcast in general. I've also had the pleasure of meeting Kawa a couple of times, and his fiancée Kim. They're all absolutely lovely. I obviously haven't been able to meet Brendan, but I hope that day comes. But yeah, a huge congratulations to Moyen, who I do think is probably one of the best players in the world. And I know they've been ultra disappointed that they haven't been able to make top cut the last 2 events, so super proud of them for doing so for this event, and not only that, for qualifying for the European Championships, which I know was one of the things that he absolutely had his eyes on. I'm not going to talk too much about this deck, because Moyen has agreed that he's going to be our next interview on the channel, my next one-on-one, and that will be coming probably mid to late next week. I'll try and get out as soon as I can, but I have so much content to catch up on. But we're doing that interview on Monday, I believe. Yes, we're doing it Monday. So expect that next week. But yeah, huge shout out to Moyen. Going back to top 4, we have the first of our 2 Ruby Amethyst lists. The first of which being piloted by Ruben, who came second at the Disney Lorcana Challenge in Bochum. What an incredible feat to go second and fourth back-to-back events is absolutely incredible. They were also on Ruby Amethyst in Bochum. I'm pretty sure they've changed their list a little bit. But yeah, huge congratulations to Ruben with a really clean looking list, but with a little bit of spice. I actually came out, I was on my break and came out to watch, I think it was their top 4 game. I think it was his match against Illy, who finished first. But I was on break for that, so I came out and sat at the table and watched a little bit of the game. It was one of the examples of Maurice's workshop popping off, because when I left that, because I couldn't watch it through to the end, I had to go backstage. But when I left that table, Ruben was firmly in control. Illy had like nothing. Like, I think he had a Maurice's workshop and like hardly anything else. And then like 10 minutes later, I heard that Ruben had lost, and I was like, what happened? But nonetheless, what happened is Illy was playing a fantastic deck and is a fantastic player. But yeah, huge congratulations to Ruben. What an accomplishment. But yeah, the point I was making when I was watching a bit of their game, suddenly the Super Goof came down and I was like, what? I actually think there was a picture. If I can find it, I'm putting it up on screen right this minute. But other than the Super Goof, pretty traditional, clean-looking list here. We are only on 4 1-drops, which is going out of popularity. More players going around to at least 1 Magic Broom, or a lot of players running 3 or 4 of them, but I'm seeing at least 1 in most lists these days. But Ruben's still just on the 4 Chernabog. We've got a really traditional bounce package for Snake, for Fox, for Rabbit, for Goat. We've got the 4 Maleficent for the consistency draws. We've got the 4 Sisu, great stats, great for your Flynn Sisu castle lines against Sapphire Steel players. Of course, those 4 copies of Flynn Rider, just to make insane jumps and ask certain decks really important questions very early. 4 Maui, 3 copies of Medusa, no Tremaine, but we've got 3 copies of King Undisputed, so looking to have a good match against Ruby Sapphire and Sapphire Steel. 4 Friends, 4 Brawl, 4 Be Prepared, 4 Queen's Castle. Everything super traditional here, but then 2 Super Goof. To be fair, just the surprise factor of Super Goof, I bet, was absolutely game-changing. And I don't know how often it would have been. And Ruben, if you are watching, I would love to know. Please let me know down in the comments how much this Super Goof put in, how much you credit it for your run. But like, I can absolutely see it putting in work just down to that surprise factor. No one's playing around Super Goof. But yeah, super good looking list. Congratulations to Ruben. And our only other Ruby Amethyst list in top 16, shocker I know, is, I don't know if it's Niels, I apologise if both of those are wrong, but nonetheless, congratulations on a top 16 finish at DLC Bologna. Ruby Amethyst, we are running those 4 Magic Broom Luminary Keepers to be additional 1-drop, another really clean looking list. Most counts exactly the same, no Super Goof. We're running no King Undisputed and no Lady Tremaine, which again, we saw a couple of lists. We saw a couple of lists that were very similar to this, doing very well in Fort Worth. We're running those 2 Empowered Sibling Sisu, which I am coming around to more and more, and is a defo include for me in Ruby Amethyst from set 5 onwards. Everything else really standard. So yeah, not running that Tremaine King effect. So I would love to know what their matchup spread was like, specifically against Sapphire Steel and Ruby Sapphire. Still absolutely winnable without that effect, but yeah, I think that generally favors you, but clearly it wasn't necessary for this player, so huge congratulations to them. I told a lie. One more Ruby Amethyst list in top 8. Thomas Berger with the exact same list. So that has got to tell you something. Personally, I'm not ready to completely cut my B-Kings. I have cut my... I was on 3 B-King, 2 Tremaine, which is probably why I've had good Sapphire Steel and Ruby Sapphire matchups. I am down to 2 or 3 B-King at the moment. I don't know, I haven't fully committed. I'm willing to go down to a less number, but I still don't like not having any. But you've got to listen to this data that this list is doing very, very well for Ruby Amethyst players. So fully respect it. Huge congratulations to Thomas Berger on a top 8. Going to top 16, we have Larkath with some Emerald Steel Bucky. Now, there were only 2 Emerald Steel Buckies that made top 16, although the other one is one of the decks that I'm missing, so this is the only one that we'll be looking at in this video. But yeah, only 2 making it through. A little bit of a shocker, the swan song for Bucky, but there you go. But Looking pretty traditional here. We're running that 4-4 Diablo line to be the perfect turn 2 alongside Bucky. 4-4 Robin Hood, running 2 copies of Tinkerbell to be another Floodborn and a bit more mid-game board control. Just 3 copies of the Ursa Deceiver of All with 2 Chill, 4 Storm, 4 Rage. 2 copies of that Donald Duck, Perfect Gentleman to be another Floodborn. And again, it's a little bit more card draw for you. If Diablo doesn't pop off, then you can struggle with card draw. We've got 4 copies of Beast Tragic Hero here, which, like, again, it's a Floodborn, so triggers Bucky. That can help, but this is just another way to assure that you have a little bit more, card count. And again, in a perfect world, we've hopefully emptied our opponent's hand so that when they draw this extra card for Donald, we're immediately removing it. And yeah, I like Donald, and he is inkable. 3 copies of Flynn Rider, just 2 copies of the Jafar Dreadnought, 2 copies of that Hidden Cove, which seem to be oh so important in all the Bucky matchups that I casted, just keeping Diablo out of the range of things like Storm, Brawl, things like that, and even keeping Bucky out of Tinkerbell. It's just so good. 2 Grab Your Swords, 2 Along Came Zeus, and 2 We Don't Talk About Bruno. So there we have it. This will be the last time, or will most likely be the last time, that we're looking at a Bucky discard deck for a while. Again, I think Emerald Steel is still going to be a really good deck. It's just going to start to look a bit more how it looked in set 3 with Prince Johns and Merfolks, and it's going to open up things like EA Tempo to come back into form. I think a few decks now can do better. I think Amber Emerald can definitely thrive without Bucky. So yeah, I've seen a couple of people say, you know, oh, Bucky didn't even, was Bucky even that bad then? Did it need to be errated? We will never have the certain answer, but I still think it's for the best. I just think Bucky has his thumb too much on certain things. I think it's too much advantage gained from no skill expression. That's my honest opinion about it, really. So yeah, I will not be sad to see the back of Bucky, but Discard fans, never fear. Discard is still going to be a very strong deck, but time to say goodbye to the Squirrel Squeak Tutor. Like I said, we're missing the other Emerald Steel deck, but it was courtesy of Samuel Estrati, top 16, so congratulations to them. And our final deck list that I've got to look at in top 16, we've got Martin with some Amethyst Steel, the Specci special, all in all. So yeah, super low to the ground, super aggro. We've got 4 Chernabog, 4 Magic Broom, great card draw, great just quest pressure. They only quest for 1, but again, you make your opponent, if your opponent just ignores them, then they can cheat out a lot of lore. 2 copies of Maleficent to be a very aggressive quester. Our bounce package is 4 Snake, only 3 Fox, but 4 Goat and 4 Merlin Rabbit, running 2 copies of that Tiny Tactician Tinkerbella. What is wrong with me? A Tiny Tactician Tinkerbell, which your opponent has to respect. If you put this down and threaten a shift into Big Tink from turn 4, that really plays mind games. I say it from experience, running 3 copies of Benja to help us against those item decks, so mostly Sapphire, really. 3 copies of Lawrence to be another big body, a big quester. Running 2 copies of that Bell, Accomplished Mystic. 5 cost Inkable, 4/4. Shift 3 is irrelevant. Quest for 2, and on play, move up to 3 damage counters from chosen character to opposing chosen character, which obviously you can set up just through challenges, but Mr. Smear is a great target for this, so really nice synergy. 4 copies of a Boom for things like Flynn's and Diablos. 4 friends, 1 copy of Smash. Again, that's going to safeguard you against things like Diablo at the Cove. Helps get rid of things like Ariel against Steel Song. So yeah, I like the Smash. 3 Zeus, 1 Grab Your Swords, and 4 Queen's Castle. It's a shame that we never got to cast this. I know Specci was keen to get the opportunity, but I know he'll be very proud to see what I do consider like is his version of Amethyst Steel performing really, really well. So congratulations to Martin. And that is it for the top 16 deck list from the Disney Lorcana Challenge in Bologna. So I'm going to spend the rest of the video just talking about a few random things. At the moment, there will be a video showing of a game store that I got to visit over the weekend, which I'll, well, not on the weekend, on Monday evening. I'll get to that part of the story in a moment. But yeah, just a few things to say, and we're going to open a couple of packs. But yeah, I had an absolutely incredible time getting to cast Bologna. I am going to start by telling you the nightmare I had getting there. Some people, if you follow me on Twitter, then you'll see I put up a post saying that I was delayed in Frankfurt for a bit. So yeah, I had to leave at 3 o'clock in the morning to start. I had to get a taxi and then a train to Heathrow. And yeah, I did the same thing for this trip that I did for when I was going to Bologna, when I had to leave at a similar time, about 3 in the morning, which is not sleep, because I don't tend to sleep until 3 is average. Sometimes it's as late as 5, 6, and that's partly because quite often my mum needs my assistance in the night, but it's just how I'm wired. I'm just a bit of a night bird. So yeah, there was no way I was sleeping before then. So my thought was I would just do what I did for Bochum, which was just stay up. We have the flight, get over to there. We normally go straight to the venue for rehearsals, which is basically just showing us the space and, you know, if there are any changes to production schedule that we need to know about, any changes to like the tech side of it. So yeah, we basically do a rehearsal, and then when that's finished, we go back to the hotel, and then we've got the evening to eat and stuff like that. So when I went to Bochum, did all that, and then just had an early night, just ended up going to bed at like 9 o'clock, and so I got like enough sleep as I was fine for the weekend. But yeah, set up about 3 in the morning, got to Heathrow, and yeah, for first plane we had a stop off at Frankfurt, and the layover time was, I think it was like an hour and 40 minutes, and the plane was nearly an hour leaving from Heathrow, and then I think when it arrived, I think it needed to wait a little while before it could land straight away. Not too long, but another delay was when we got off the plane. We had a heck of a journey to get from where we landed to the gate we needed for our transfer, including a bus. And there was a lot of people on the flight, and like I missed the first bus that went across to the correct gate. So it was a mission getting through, and then passport control took a long time. Long story short, missed the flight, which I was furious about, and got told that there wasn't another one for another 10 hours. So I had to wait until I think it was about 10:30 or 10 o'clock in the evening in Frankfurt. I was so angry, partly because like I was disappointed that this meant I was going to miss rehearsals for a start. Realistically, I knew that wasn't the end of the world. I've done it a couple of times now. They'd have been able to tell me anything that I needed to know. It wasn't the end of the world to be missing rehearsals, but I was super annoyed that I was basically missing like a half day in Italy. And again, we'd have been in the venue for most of it, but again, at least that would have been like, it's still nice to see everybody and spend that time. And then normally there's like, after we've done the rehearsals, whether it's production, tech, like everyone involved with the staff of Ravensburger normally goes out for a meal, and then people go back to the hotel and go back to a bar. And not everyone's necessarily some people that want to drink. Not everyone is, because we've got a long weekend. But there's generally games going on. It's just generally just a nice vibe, and it's a nice part of the overall event. And I wasn't going to be arriving in Bologna until about 12:30. So I was super angry. I was annoyed. Yeah. But yeah, everyone was super cool about it. Like my like the Fanfinity staff that are technically my employers, and the Ravensburger team that I'm in contact with, and friends that like a lot of the staff have become friends at this point. So everyone was proper supportive, and like, it's cool, no worries. But yeah, I get there, get taxi to the hotel, and I'm wired up because like it's been a dramatic day. So I literally had one beer with a couple of mates, just to sort of calm down. I don't drink much. I'm not a big drinker anymore. Not for a long time. But normally over these weekends, I'll have a drink or two to be sociable. But yeah, I had one drink with a friend just to calm down and a chat. And then got to bed for about 2 o'clock. And we had to be up so we were meeting at 7 or I think 6:45 to have breakfast and then get to the venue. And I overslept. I was so annoyed at myself. Yeah, we had to be there for 8, and the event was starting at 9. And I woke up to bangs on my door at 8:40. Immediately went into panic mode. Absolutely panic. Shot up, went to the door, and it's one of the hotel staff with one of the Ravensburger staff come to check on me. And it's even in that moment, he was so like cool about it. It was like, don't panic. If you're ill or are you hurt, like my safety was number one concern. And then it was like, if you need some time, if you need a couple of hours to like get some more sleep, or you need to have a proper breakfast or something, we'll cover it. And I was like, no, I'm already basically closing the door and running it. I had the quickest shower of my life, brush my teeth, and I'm putting the suit on, and my god, it's hot in Bologna. Like halfway through putting the suit on, I might as well have swam there. And I'm back at the door in like a minute. And I was like, let's go. Taxi. Get a taxi to the venue. Oh my God, was it hot. And I hadn't seen the venue, but that's another reason another good thing about the rehearsal day is we find the venue, we find where the entrance is and everything, blah, blah, blah. So it's my first time getting there, so eventually found where I was meant to go, and it all ended up being fine. It was meant to be me and either Joe or Ross for the first game. We always rotate who's on first break, and obviously because I wasn't there, they prepped to do the first game, and we kept it that way. But yeah, I arrived, walked through the hall. I think it was the players' meeting going on. Saw some familiar faces, but didn't really have time to stop and say hello to anyone because I was with Ravensburger staff. It was getting me backstage. I was like Sebastian Red. But yeah, absolute nightmare getting started, and then technically being late for the day one of the event. And again, it all ended up being fine. If I was on first break, it would have changed nothing. And I was there, and I just went on second, and everything was fine. But I was so annoyed at myself. It was a nightmare. But yeah, other than that, incredible weekend, just incredible. I honestly I've been humbled in both Lille and Bochum, the amount of people that recognize me, and sometimes you can tell they might recognize you because they'll double take but don't always say hello, which is fine. But the amount of people that do come up, whether it's because they just want to say hello and have a chat, or want something signed, or want a photograph, it's always super humbling. And in Italy, there were so many people, more than I don't want to say become accustomed to, because I'm not really accustomed to it, but from more than past experience, let's put it that way. And it's so humbling. Again, I'm always more than happy to have a chat with people and take a photo and sign something. And again, I always do my best to if someone says, hi, can I have a photo? I always do my best to not just go, yeah, thanks. I always do my best to say, hi, what's your name? How are you? Are you enjoying yourself? And have a chat. So again, if you ever see me at an event and you want to say hello, please do. I'll be honored and delighted to have a chat with you. Again, a huge shout out to everyone involved in the organisation of the event, Fanfinity, Ravensburger, the vendors, everyone that comes together to put on these events, and shout out to you guys, the players. Without the players, the game is nothing, and it was just such a pleasure to be involved. I never ever take it for granted. I have watched back the stream in its entirety now. I actually didn't get back until Wednesday, and I'll finish with that part of the story why I was late coming back. But yeah, one of the first things I did was watch it back, which is always what I do. I like to evaluate myself. I've said this in the past. It's just kind of how I'm built from my acting and singing career. You always watch your stuff back and you're just honest about yourself, about what you did good and bad. I still think there's plenty of stuff I can improve on. I've still got some bad habits that I'm trying to break out of. I still make mistakes. As I'm watching back the games, I hear myself saying things and I'm like, what are you talking about, Baker? Yeah, I definitely make mistakes. Don't get me wrong. I still believe in my ability as a caster and as a public speaker. It's something I've done my entire life, and I do feel like my whole life has been kind of building up to get me ready for this. But my point being, I've still got a long way to go. I'm not perfect. There's still things I want to improve on, but I'm so grateful for the support that everyone's given and kind words that everyone sends, and I hope to continue to improve and be worthy of the position that I'm in, because I do know how fortunate I am to be in it. I also want to give a really special thank you to Podcana, and I'm actually going to play a little clip from one of their latest uploads, which I hope they don't mind. I haven't asked, but I'm hoping that they don't mind and don't copyright me for it.
I do want to say I did catch some of the coverage, and I do think that the EU coverage is very, very good right now. Just the multiple camera angles, I think that Lorcana Villain is doing really well as a host. Just very energetic, very engaging. The interviews as well are hitting multiple angles. I was looking at the EU coverage, I was like, this is something that you could be proud of. I did tune into a Specci Lorcana Villain, match, and when they were together. So maybe they're just a really good duo. But in terms of the quality, the casters, it was solid.
I think the casters make it shine. I genuinely think that Specci and Villain do a fantastic job. I think the energy that Villain brings, paired alongside such great knowledge as well. I think that's really great to see. And Specci has the knowledge, but then also a little bit of charm as well. Do you know what I mean? I think I mean, we talked about this a lot, Brennan. Like, I think we all agree that we like casters that are very analytical, focused on the game. They like having a bit of that, like, charisma and energy is really nice, but I kind of dislike it when that's the main focus, is it's nearly on that and not on the gameplay and not on the games itself. When you can get that balance right, and when you have a duo that can really bounce off of each other really well, I think that's when casters really shine. So yeah, shout out to production, everything that went on. I thought it was done really, really well.
Now, I show this clip not to show off, but to say how grateful I am to hear things like that from my peers. Again, it's always such an honor to like get support from everyone I meet, viewers, subscribers, like just everybody. But of course, when you hear comments like that from your peers and like people that I look up to these guys as content creators, as players, as human beings, then that's really, really assuring. So yeah, I just like I watched their podcast anyway, so when I saw that, I did get a bit emotional, and like I just wanted to show that clip and basically just say thank you to those guys, and yeah, just thank you to everyone that feels the same way and has been so supportive. Couple of last things. First of all, if you watched the stream, you may have seen that I pulled an Enchanted Ursula Sea Witch Queen and kind of completely messed up the opening because I was trying to rush. Completely genuine. Couldn't believe it. But, my villains, we took that Ursula Sea Witch Queen and we traded it over the weekend. And we have finally acquired the absolute boss man, Jafar Striking Illusionist, which people that have been with my channel since the release of this card know how much I love this, how much this has been my chase. So glad to finally have it. Now I need to get Scar from set 5 because... But yeah, super glad to get Jafar, and I knew there'd be some people out there that would be glad to see that. So super glad to have gotten that. And yeah, we're just to briefly talk about why I ended up not coming home as soon as possible. Basically, the long and the short of it is, as well as the very stressful time I had getting to Bologna, I kind of alluded to this in my videos last week, that it's been a bit of a stressful, hard month, and I'm gonna do another sort of like life update video probably before the end of this month, where I'll talk about a bunch of things, and maybe I'll go into a bit more detail about that then. I'm in a better place now, but yeah, like I've made friends with some people at Ravensburger and Fanfinity, and yeah, I kind of shared a few things, and basically I was invited to go back to Germany after the event to basically have a little holiday, and also be taken to one of the LGSs in Germany, which I got to visit, which you've been seeing footage of throughout this talky admin section. And yeah, I got to play some games, I got to meet some more amazing people, and like again, it was more people that had come because they heard that I was going to be there, and they wanted a picture, they wanted to play, they wanted something signed, which again, always super humbling, and had such an amazing time. And yeah, stayed in Germany for a couple of days and basically played a lot of games. I played me and Tim of the development team played so many games. He's got so many decks, and we just sat at a table one evening and he just laid them all out, and we just played game after game just using his decks. And I was very proud that I was pretty even. I think by the end of like 11 games, I think it was like 6-5, something like that. And I was using a lot of decks that mostly I'd never touched before. So I was very proud of myself to be able to like go neck and neck with one of the developers of the game, and like just had such a great time being there with him and with his wife Mimi, and shout out to Fabian as well. And yeah, it was an amazing time. It was an honor to get to go, and yeah, it was very much needed. Like again, the weekends where I get to cast Disney Lorcana Challenge, I don't think of it as work. I'm having fun, but at the same time, it is long and tiring. And then I basically get home and I'm back into content, and I'm back into like looking after mum and stuff like that. So it was kind of a needed break, and I'm super grateful for it. And I was gifted, especially for Mama Villain, this incredibly cool Ravensburger villainous puzzle with our boy Professor Rattigan. And I actually filmed me giving it to her. I feel my mum's reaction, and I actually think before the end of the month I'm going to put that up as a members only video. So if you are interested in more like vlog content, then maybe this is the month to consider becoming a member, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to put that up. And once I've done one, I'll probably be more inclined to put more up. I was sent the starter decks early by Ravensburger. Again, a huge thank you to them for doing that. These were here when I got home. I'm going to leave these because I have friends coming around next week that I'm going to teach how to play Lorcana, and I'm going to use these, and I think I'm going to turn that into content. So expect that to come onto the channel soon. But yeah, I this morning was invited to the Disney store in London to pick up the D23 set, which I know, again, I know how lucky I am. Like, sometimes when I talk about all these things that have happened to me, like, I do possess the quality of shame. Like, there is that part of me that, like, I'm not trying to show off or anything like that. I'm just talking about what's going on in my life, and I just want you to know I am still so grateful for it, and I always will be. There's never going to come a point where I just expect these things. But yeah, I got to go. There was such a huge queue, and again, it is privileged to get to go and not have to stand. Like, a lot of people will have, some people queued overnight, and there's going to be people that will be queuing for hours to get that set, and some might not even get it. So I know I'm in a privileged position to have been able to pick it up, but of course I'm so happy to have been able to pick it up. I did pick up 2, and I am going to be giving 1 away. I'm not going to talk about any more about that right now, because I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to go about it, but I picked up 2. We didn't get given them for free. We bought them. They were, I think, £90 each, maybe just over. But I bought 2 with the idea that I'm going to give 1 away, because I've said for a while that when I'm in a position to start giving back to the community, I will do so. And I'm still not in a vastly different financial situation to what I was before, but I'm at least better off than I was, and absolutely well enough to be able to have been able to sit there and say, I'll buy a second one and give it away. So stay tuned. Basically, when that giveaway does happen, I'll release the information via a video and a community post and a tweet. So if you follow my socials and stuff, then you shouldn't miss it. Maybe a week or 2 before I actually release the details, but that is absolutely the plan. To end us off, because it's definitely been a long video, we're probably just over the hour mark, I'm going to open, I've got 3 packs here of Shimmering Skies, and I'm going to open them for the very first time here on the channel. Let's get in focus. We're starting off with Minnie Mouse, Compassionate Friend. We've got Medal of Heroes. Very interested to try some brews with this and the Ariel from Chapter 1. My green screen is on, so you are going to get this effect for a minute. Should I just turn it off? Alright, we just turn it off for a minute to make this a little cleaner. We've got Night Howler Rage. We've got Evil Comes Prepared. Great art. We've got the White Rabbit. I'm very fond of the White Rabbit. We've got Shield of Arendelle. So we've got a Scepter and a Shield now. We're going to get the whole kit. We've got Sleepy. I think this is a super good bodyguard. This turn 1 Daisy, turn 2 this. Kind of scares me. What? You're welcome for the islands I poured from the sea. Great card. I'm pretty sure it will see play. We've got Nala. 0-4 seems like a pretty good stat line, to be honest. We've got the half Hexwell Crown. There is Lorcana narrative going on here, I'm telling you. We've got the Queen, Fairest of All. This is actually one of my picks for what I think will start off as just a fun deck, but in time there could be some utility here with some more queens, especially combined with Lucky Dime. And we've got 7 Dwarves. Mine is my foil, which I'm pretty happy with. I definitely want to build a Knight 7 Dwarves deck. But we've got 2 more packs to open, and then we will be calling it a day. Still tons of content that I need to work on and get out in the next week, so hopefully it'll be the channel will be busy over the next week. First off, we've got Chaka. Yeah, Chaka. We got my boy, the Raging Rat Ratigan. We've got Ed, Laughing Hyena. Really nice art on that. We've got Retrosphere. We've got Vanellope Von Schweetz. Pretty sure this is in the starter deck. We've got Simba, Lost Prince. Shout out to Alphos. We've got the Library. Also comes in the starter deck. And some players think this is going to be very good. I'm a little bit on the fence. We've got Taffeta Mutton Fudge. I'm convinced that even if this isn't great now, in the future, it's going to be. I think locations are just going to get better and better. And Instant 2 Lore, yes please. We've got Merlin's Carpet Bag. We've got the Sherwood Forest. And our foil is... Oh, no, that's not our foil. We've got Elsa's Palace. And our foil is Finders Keepers. I will absolutely take that. I don't think this is a great card. Maybe some niche use in Jafar. But I do love the art. Jafar and Iago, they just kind of speak to me. You know what I mean? Right, we've got one pack left to go. We've got this gateway thing instead of a puzzle piece, which is okay. I'm always going to prefer the puzzle piece, to be honest. I just think they are far more exciting. If you watch the Lil stream, you know. Okay, final pack, and then we are going to call it a day. First of all, we've got that Donald Duck focused flatfoot. So another detective. I know some Sapphire players are interested in this. We've got Daisy Duck, Spotless Food Fighter. We've got Flora, she's the worst. We've got Archimedes, Rut, or Root, I think it's Rut. Mickey Mouse, interesting stat line with Resist. We've got another Finders Keepers. We've got a Tavern of Mutton Fudge. We've got the Shift Target now. We've got King Candy. Have some candy. Mate, don't even at me. I do a great King Candy impression. We've got Queen's Sensor Core. Oh, we got that Daisy Duck super rare. I know a lot of people are going to be looking for this. And the foil is going to be Pete. Hey, no legendary for me, but I'm sure it will come in time. Although I can't afford any set 5 product yet because I skinned it myself on the D23 collection. Anyway, that is going to be it from me for now. Super long video. So yeah, coming soon. I still want to cover the junior set championships. I know we're like, after a new set drops, interest in previous sets dies down a lot, and understandably so. People that are still playing Toronto in this meta will absolutely probably still be interested. But yeah, I am expecting a bit of a drop-off in interest in set 4, which is fair enough. But we are going to be looking at the juniors set championship. So when that video hits, do please check it out. Show some support for the next generation of Lorcana. Also very soon I'll be finishing off my set review. I've only got Emerald left to do, so expect that very, very soon. And then I'm very interested in any weekend 1 deck list for set 5, and then a bunch of stuff in the back of my mind. But we're going to leave it there. That's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit that like button to show support, and we'll see you soon.